I'm now going to give you a walkthrough of the application. So here you can see is a downloaded copy of the BridgeNY 2018 program application. This can be downloaded from our website. This application has 2 pages of instruction, as you can see here. So please read through the instructions carefully and make sure you understand what you're filling out. I'm going to jump right into the meat of the application. So the first part is the sponsor information. So here you need to input all the information that is asked for, including the project sponsor, the sponsor responsible point of contact information. As you can see here, this includes a name, address, and email address. If you have a second business address or contact address, you can include that as well. If you do not, you can click on this to remove that from the application. The second part of the application is which type of application you want to fill out, whether it is a bridge or a culvert application. Now, the way this fillable PDF form works is that based on which application you choose, there are certain things that become invisible or visible depending on what is appropriate. So if we start out with a bridge application, you can go and select what region you're in. Now, how do you know which application that you want to choose, whether it's a bridge or a culvert application? So this is determined based on the span length of the existing structure. So if your existing structure is 20 feet or greater, that requires a bridge application. And if it's less than 20 feet, then that requires a culvert application. If you have an existing culvert that has a 19-foot span length, and you know that when you replace it, it's going to be a bridge, that is still a culvert application. Now, as you can see here, if I change this to a culvert application, there's information that pops up. So this says, click here if the sponsor would like New York State DOT to design and then let this culvert in a bundled construction contract. If checked, then the sponsor is required to submit a draft application for the coordinated pre-review with New York State DOT. So this is the location to check if you would like New York State DOT to design and let your culvert for you. The second part of the application is the project estimate. Again, this is a fillable form, so you pop right down in here and you fill in what you believe to be your construction cost. I mentioned earlier that it automatically calculates a 5% field change payment and 4% mobilization cost. That is added right here. You can go ahead and add your cost for construction inspection, what you believe you're going to have to spend for right away, and then how much money you plan on spending for design. The form fills this out for you. It adds up all the costs, and it comes with a total project cost, as you can see here. If for some reason you already have other funds secured, let's say you have already completed the design and you paid for the design, you can place that dollar amount here. And let's go ahead and switch this back to a bridge. So you can see that the total BridgeNY funds requested are the 95% of the project cost minus the funds already secured. So you're requesting about 1.6 million, and it tells you what your local match is going to be, the 5%. Let's say that you do not have any money. You should fill in with zeros and not just leave blank. So you can see that it calculates your total requested dollar amount, the 95%, and your total local match. Now, if you noticed before, there's a table for bridge projects. If you have a culvert project selected, there was a separate table. that calculates the 100% funds requested and then the 0% local match for you. Now moving down, there is a table with suggested values for design, right-of-way, and construction inspection cost based on a percentage of the total construction cost. These values are for your reference only. They are suggested values, and the sponsor is responsible for all costs input in the application. One way you can use this table, as you can see, we are saying that we anticipate construction inspection to be between 10 and 12% of the construction cost. Now, the construction cost is what you put in for construction and the field change in mobilization. So it's these two numbers summed together times 10% and 12% gives you a low-end value and a high-end value. So for this specific project that I input numbers, it looks like I might be short on money for construction inspection. So that's something that you should look into, and if that is true, you should justify why you're outside those ranges. Now the same goes for design costs. We anticipate design costs to be between 20 and 25% of the construction cost, and you can see here that the dollar amount input is well above the 25%. So again, there might be a reason for this, but if you are outside of these ranges, you should provide justification for that. The next part of the application is the existing structure information. Now currently this application is showing the requested information for a bridge project. So the first thing you can see is that you need to fill out the BIN number. If you have a project identification number, go ahead and fill it in. If you don't have one, that's okay. There's a check box here. If the sponsor owns the structure, then you need to check this box. If you do not own it, then you need to leave it blank. The next part of the application is to download the existing bridge information worksheet. This is an Excel file, and you can download it from our website. This is what the worksheet looks like here. So you download this Excel file, you put in the BIN number of the bridge in question, and what this does is this shows you the information that we are going to be using as part of the review for this project. So this makes sure that the sponsor has the same information that New York State DOT is using. You can see here that there's a local bridge priority index that is calculated for each bridge, and that number can show how good a project might be for this bridge. So the higher the number, the worse condition the bridge is going to be in, and the more likely it is in need of a project. Where this bridge here has a very low number, so this bridge is probably not in very much need of a project. So again, please download that file from our website, and there's a portion in the application later on where you can attach files. So once you attach that file, you can come and hit this check mark so that we know you have attached that file to your application. Now that file can be the Excel file itself, or it can be a PDF of the Excel file. Either one is fine. So since we have all of the bridge inventory in our database, we do not need to gather any more information from you. That is not the case for the culverts. We do not have a database that has all the culvert inventory information. So if I go back and I switch this now to a culvert application, you can see that where I just filled in the bridge information, that is now invisible. And now you're asked to fill in information pertaining to this specific culvert. The first thing you need to fill out is the culvert identification number or identifier. If each sponsor already has their culverts inventoried and they have a unique naming system, they can use that. If they do not have a unique naming system, they can go ahead and just use culvert 1, 2, 3, 4, however many they want to submit. And all this is a way to identify culvert applications from the same sponsor. So you can go ahead and input culvert 1. Again, if you have a PIN number, go ahead and put that in. Check the box if the culvert is owned by the sponsor. Fill out the county where the project is located. And then we have the information that we already have for the bridges. This is the information we're requesting for the culverts. Feature carried over feature crossed, year built, width of opening, length of barrel, latitude and longitude of the project. We need this information to map the location of all the projects, the traffic, percentage of trucks, the detour length, the load posting, whether it's posted or not, and then the material type that the culvert is made out of. There is a website listed here, so you can track down what that latitude and longitude is for that particular bridge. We will now continue and move on to the next part of the application, which is project needs. As you can see here, we want to know why this project is needed. So please check all that apply, whether it's structural condition, and adequate structural capacity or load rating, hydraulic inadequacies, inadequate vertical clearance, or other. We also would like to know what the project scope is, so you can choose from one of the following. And then there's an empty box over here on the right where you can provide us with more information that you feel we might need at this point. And specifically, if you choose other and rehabilitation, we would like to know specifically what the scope of work is. Now, for culvert projects, the sponsors are directed to take one of the two following options to mitigate the risk for culvert projects. So we all know that just because a culvert has an existing size, it may be inadequate hydraulically, and usually these culverts get bigger when we design new ones. So in order to mitigate this risk, we are asking the sponsor to either provide a preliminary hydraulic analysis performed and stamped by a New York State professional engineer, or they can base the culvert size and project scope on a minimum culvert span length equal to 1.5 times the existing waterway opening. So sponsors need to take one of these two actions. Otherwise, without justification, they can be significantly downgraded. The next part of the application is the sponsor's opportunity to tell us about their project. So the first part is the project needs. So please describe the project and infrastructure need, and you are limited to the space that you can see here. The second is the project scope. So please tell us about the project scope. And then the last box is describe the project's special features. So you can let us know anything about the project that you feel is relevant. The next part of the application is the project delivery. So we'd like you to indicate the current project status. So you can pick from this pull-down menu. And we just want to know at what stage of the process you are in. We also would like to know the estimated month and year of letting and the project priority. So the project priority has to do with your own applications. So if you plan on submitting 2 bridge applications, one should have a priority of 1 and the other one should have a priority of 2, depending on which one you would prefer to be awarded. If you also have 3 culvert projects that you're applying for, those 3 applications should have a priority of 1, 2, and 3. The next part of the application is we would like for you to tell us the number of anticipated right-of-way acquisitions. And at this point, I'd just like to point out that you should read the notice of funding availability very carefully with respect to right-of-way acquisitions. We are requiring the sponsors to identify the property rights to be acquired and proof of right-of-way ownership. Ownership can be shown through surveys and clearance certificates, highway boundary line on a stamped plan, or record plans, and tax maps are not sufficient documentation. So you can provide us with that information here, and you can attach any files later on in the application. We also would like to know if any structure, building, site, or object that may be listed on the National Registry of Historic Places. And then we're looking for what is the status of your environmental reviews, whether it's SEEKR or NEPA, whichever one applies. And then project deliverabilities. Where do you stand with respect to design report, ADPs, and PS&E and bid documents? Have you not started at all? Have they been initiated, completed, or not applicable? We would also like to know what is your anticipated completion date for these deliverables. And again, there's a blank box here for any project delivery information that you feel like you need to share with us. The next part of the application is the attachments. This is where you can attach any additional files that you would like to provide for us. Also note that any information that was required in the application is preceded with asterisks. So we are looking for you to provide a detailed project estimate, which you can click on here, and it brings up an Add Files window. So you can find that estimate, click on it, and it will attach to your application. Now, what you're seeing here is for a culvert application. So you can see there's something missing or something invisible here. So if I go back up, and I'm going to switch this back to a bridge application. And you can see that that now has the existing bridge information worksheet. So you can go ahead, click on that, attach your existing bridge information worksheet, and it attaches to the PDF. Now, if you click this button again, all that's going to happen is that same window is going to pop up. So you can continue attaching files to this PDF just by clicking any of these on and off. It does not matter which ones or where you click as to which file gets attached. So you can see that we are requiring a detailed project estimate, project schedule, and for bridges, the existing bridge information worksheet. Everything else that you want to attach is up to you as to how you want to better describe your project. The next part of the application is certification and getting ready to submit. There are two check boxes here for bridges. The first one being check this box if you had submitted a draft application for pre-review as described in the instructions on page 2 and have attached the comment sheet. So if you participated in the pre-review, you should check this box and make sure to attach the comment form that we provide to you at the end of the pre-review period, and make sure you check this box right here. And that's going to be for bridges and for culverts. The next box is for bridges only, and if you went ahead and got a PE certification letter for your bridge project, you can go ahead and check this box. Now, if I go back to the beginning of the application, and I change this to a culvert application. So now you can see that the PE box is now invisible, and now there's a box for culverts about whether you have attached a preliminary hydraulic analysis or base the cost and scope on a minimum culvert span length of 1.5 times the existing waterway. So if you've done that, go ahead and click that box too. Lastly, you need to have a digital signature to sign the application. If you go ahead, you can click on it, and if you already have a digital signature set up, it will bring that up. You can put in your password and it will sign it digitally for you. If you do not have a digital signature already set up, when you click on that, it will walk you through the steps in order to set that up. The next thing that I'd like to point out is the file naming convention. This is for a culvert application. So before you submit for the draft application pre-review or the final review, you need to rename your application based on the nomenclature given here. So the first part is going to be either a C or a B for bridge or culvert. It's going to be the region number. It's going to be the sponsor name. And then it's going to be either the bin number or the culvert identifier that you put in the application. So whatever you place in the application, it's going to grab that and create a PDF file name for you. So please use this file name that is given in the application. So once you have signed and named your file, you can print the file for your records. And then you can click on this button here, and it will bring up an email that is already addressed to BridgeNY@dot.ny.gov, and it will have your PDF file attached to it, so you can go ahead and submit it. So another thing I'd like to point out about the application submission is that we will be using the information from the electronic PDF to extract data. So please do not submit a scanned copy of the file. This goes for the draft submission at pre-review and the final submission. So we want to make sure that everybody is using the proper naming convention, as you see here for a bridge. And we want to make sure that we get a copy of the full PDF. We do not want a scanned version of the PDF. Once you have completed your application, as mentioned previously, you can submit the final application to BridgeNY@dot.ny.gov. A confirmation email will be sent stating receipt of the application within 1 working day. This is not an automatic reply, so don't get nervous if you don't get an email right away. So some application tips to think about when you're going through the application. Become familiar with the application instruction and the notice of funding availability. There's a lot of information that is given, and many of the questions can be answered within that information. Gather the information you need that's necessary to complete the application. If you have to go out in the field, if you have to take pictures, do that as soon as possible. Check for the necessary software. Adobe Acrobat Standard, Pro, or DC is required to fill out the application. Download the form to your computer. Don't try to fill it out through a web page. You can use the tab button to go through the application. Use a word processing program for lengthy entries and then cut and paste in the application. One bridge or one culvert is project per application, so you cannot combine multiple structures for one application. One structure per one application. The documentation should be attached to the PDF. So like I said, we want to have one PDF file with all the documentation attached to it. The application deadlines listed include application and all supporting documentation. Please contact Bridge New York at dot.ny.gov with any questions you may have. Please check our website frequently for updated information, and also check the frequently asked questions, which will be updated weekly. And then save and print your application for your records.